What are truth trees and how do we use them? Let's consider. Hello, I'm Chico. Welcome to the Philosopher Channel Introduction to Propositional Logic course. So far, we've already got what's necessary for doing propositional logic with our truth tables, but today we're going to learn about a different technique. It's a little bit quicker, and it's something that we're going to have to know how to do in predicate logic, and this is called truth trees. The basic idea is this. You start off with your set of propositions, and you list them at the top of the page, one on top of the other. And then given those propositions, you write down anything else that must be true given the fact that those propositions are true. Now, if it's a simple proposition or if it's the negation of a simple proposition, then there won't be anything else that's true that we need to write down. But if it's a compound proposition other than the negation of a simple proposition, then there will be stuff. And we'll have rules for figuring out what those other true propositions will be. For the more complex propositions, we'll continue to apply these rules over and over again, and every time we do, it'll make them smaller and smaller, more and more simple, until we can finally break them down into just simple propositions or the negation of simple propositions. Sometimes we're going to have to take our tree and split it into multiple branches because of different rules, and we'll talk about today why that is. But ultimately, our goal is to break everything down to either simple propositions or to the negation of simple propositions. And we'll stop wherever we see a contradiction or where we've gotten everything down to one of those two things. What will this tell us? Well, first of all, it'll tell us if a set of propositions are satisfiable, but also we'll be able to determine all the other important logical concepts. So like validity of an argument, whether there's tautology, whether we have contradictories or contraries, all those kinds of things we'll figure out. But let's get started learning the rules. So there are 9 rules to learn, and 8 of them are about the two-place connectives or the negation of the two-place connectives, and there's 1 for the negation. So the first one we have here is alpha and beta. And alpha and beta is true whenever we have both conjuncts true, false otherwise. So if we have alpha and beta true, below them, we will write alpha and we will write beta because they both have to be true. Now, what happens if alpha and beta is false, if we have not alpha and beta? Well, in that case, either it's the case that we see here beta is false, right? That's for these 2 rows, or it's the case that alpha is false, right? For these 2 rows. So what we'll do is we'll have a rule where we split this and we say either alpha is false or beta is false. One of the two. As far as alpha or beta is true when either alpha is true or beta is true, right? That's those 3 rows right there. So our rule will be we'll split our alpha or beta into alpha on one side and beta on the other side. And what happens if alpha or beta is false? Well, there's only one place where that happens, and that is the very bottom row where they're both false. So we can write it's not the case that alpha, and it's also not the case that beta. As far as the arrow goes, the hypothetical, remember that this is only false on one row. And that's where alpha is true and beta is false. So let's first do the alpha, if alpha then beta being false. If you have, it's not the case that if alpha then beta, then our rule would be alpha, not beta. So alpha true, beta false. What about if it was if alpha then beta? What should our rule be? Either it's the case that alpha is false, or it's the case that beta is true, right? For these 3 rows right here. So we'll split this apart and we'll say not alpha or beta. One of those 2 has got to be true. For the if and only if, remember that is true when alpha and beta are both true or alpha and beta are both false. So we're going to split this and we're going to say either it's alpha and beta or it's not alpha, not beta. And if alpha then beta is false, then we have the opposite going on. You could have alpha true and beta false, or you could have alpha false and beta true. So those are going to be your rules for that one. Finally, for the negation. For the negation, we're only going to have one rule, and that's for the double negation, not alpha. When you have not, then it's like a double negative almost, where our rule will just write an alpha below it. I say almost like a double negative. Don't treat the not like a negative, because it doesn't work. It doesn't distribute always. So you don't want to look at it like a negative sign. But in this case, it does, like two nots make a positive, make an affirmative. So not alpha is the same thing as alpha. And I'll put on your screen from the textbook, all nice and snug, all the rules. Now, in the text, Smith talks about, as things get more complex and we're applying these rules, remember that you're always going to apply these rules to the main connective. If the main connective is the negation, then you will apply it to the negation and its negand, which will be the main connective inside of the negation. So these rules are always going to be applied like that, and you're going to go from there and simplify and simplify and simplify. So it could be confusing sometimes to look at your complex propositions and all the stuff that they have inside of them. And you might look at them and think, like, well, what is what in here? So like the recommendation in the textbook is that you black box, right? Quote unquote black box. And what that means, cover up all the extra stuff and just know, like, okay, here is my space. If for example, that they give in the book, if you have not alpha and not beta, our rule is going to apply first to that main connective, not to the negation ones. So it might get confusing. There's so many knots in there and everything. This one doesn't look too confusing, I know, but you might want to just like almost put them into boxes. I'm not saying that you want to do this physically, like put them into, draw boxes around them. You don't have to do that, but if you can mentally do that, draw boxes around them so you can see what you're doing. So we look at that, and the rule for this is you write down not A, not B below that. And by the way, once you've applied the rule all the times that you're supposed to apply it, you want to write a little check by that rule just to let you know, like, okay, I'm done with that one. So not A and not B turns into not A, not B. I'm actually doing a lot of lessons all together, and the reason I'm doing is because I think it's easiest to learn by actually doing these trees. I think that learning on the fly is the way to go here. So let's go ahead and do the exercises. 7.2.1.1. Number 1 says not A or not B. And our rule is to split these guys up into a not A and a not B, right? That main connective is that or, so we could, that's a big circle. So we can black box the not A and the not B and then apply the rule like that. Number 2, not A, then B. So again, I forgot my parentheses there. Let's black box those two guys. And our rule is we put a not here and we put nothing over on the right hand side. So we have not A here and B here. So it's not A and B. And not A, I can apply the negation rule to that and give me an A. This one has been done, and this one has been done. You don't have to put check marks next to the simple propositions or the negation of simple propositions. So there's number 2. Number 3, if A then B and B. I'm like writing betas instead of B's. Okay, so the main connective is that and. So we're going to black box these two guys. Ooh. And the black box says, or the rule says, to write them down like this. So we will. And we've applied this rule. Good. And now we have the if A then B rule. And notice what's going to happen here. I'm going to split it down here where the B is. It's okay that the B is not the rule that I'm applying. I'm not applying the rule to B, right? I'm applying it to if A then B. But it's still going to be at the end of that B. So we have either not A or B. And check. I've applied that rule. And there we go. Number 4. A, if and only if B, if and only if B. Okay, so it's this guy and this guy, right? That's our main connective. So our rule is to write down either this and this, or on the other side, the nots, the negation of those two. So let's write those in there. A, if and only if B, and B, and not A, if and only if B, and then B. And then, interestingly enough, so we've applied this rule. Now we need to apply the A, if and only if B rule over on the left-hand side. And that will look like this, A, B, or not A, not B. And on the right-hand side, for this guy right here, we have to apply the negation rule for the if and only if. That will be A, not B, or not A, then B. And I've done this guy, and I've done this guy. Number 5. It's not the case that A, if and only if, not A. Okay, so this is the negation of an if and only if. So let's see here. We have these two guys, and the rule is you split them off like so, and you have on this side the affirmative of both of them. On this side, the negation of both of them. Oh, shoot. No, it's a not. So you have this instead. You have affirmative, negation, negation, affirmative. So A, not A, not A, not A. So hopefully you see in this one, the reason that we want to do this black boxing technique is because a lot of times the negation can be really confusing. So this helps us to keep track of those negations. Okay, I've used this rule, and now I have not A. And so I can use the double negation rule here to write just a not A. And I have on this side a not A. And I'll use the double negation rule there. And actually on both cases, I have an A and a not A. That's a contradiction. So I'm going to write an X down at the bottom saying, wait a second, that's a problem, right? You can't do that. So contradiction, no, bad. Number 6, not A or B. So the negation of an or, right? Let's split this up like that. The negation of an or tells me to do this. To negate both disjuncts. So I'll write a not A in here and a B in here. I have a not A. I can apply the negation rule. And one thing I want to warn you on is, and I may have already done this, I may have made this mistake already, is not to check the thing off unless you've actually done the rule, because sometimes you will forget to do the rule and you'll make a mistake. So don't do that. All right, then we have not B and A, which is all we need. In the next section, it's all about continuing to apply the rules until you are totally complete. So the example given is A, if A, then if B, then A. So the main connective is that first arrow. So our rule is to split them off into not for the first one and an affirmative for the second one. So not A, and then over here, if B, then A. And we've applied this rule. Oh, forgot that guy. And now we have the if B, then A, so we have to apply that rule too. And that looks like this. And there we go. Our rule has been applied. So let's do the exercises. Number 1 is if A, then B, then B. And the first thing we have to do is take care of that outside arrow. We'll split this guy into the negation of the first one and the affirmative for the second one. So not if A, then B, and then B on this side. Then the negation of an if-then statement of a conditional. And our rule for that is A, not B. There we go. Number 2, if A, then B, or if B, then A. So for the or, that's the main connective. Ooh, make this circle. So we'll split it like this. All right, now the rule for the conditional is we split them like this. Not A, B. Oh, I forgot to check this off, by the way. Check. And then not B, A. Check. There we go. Number 3, it's not the case that if not A, then A or B. Okay, so this is the negation of a conditional. So to deal with that, we have the antecedent and the negation of the consequent. So let's see, the antecedent is not A, the consequent is A or B. So we've applied that rule. And now not A or B, we have to a negation of a disjunction. And for that, we have to write not A, not B. Check. Number 4, not A and, that's A and B. Or A and not B. So our first connective is this negation, and then the next one is this negation. So that's a double negation. So we can apply our double negation rule, and we got A and B, or A and not B. All right, now we have a disjunction. So we'll split it to A and B versus A and not B. And then we have conjunctions. So the rule for that is to write it like this, AB. and A, not B. There we go. The next section is all about closing paths. So a path in a truth tree, let's look at that. We have the example of if A, then if B, then A. And the first rule will make it like this, not A, if B, then A. And the second rule will make it not B on this side, A on this side. Okay, so a path would be something like this. There's one path. Here's another path. Here's another path, right? So there are three paths here. A path then is basically where you start at the very top and you keep going down one of the branches and, you know, like keep going all the way till you get to the very bottom. Now, sometimes you're going to get contradictions. And if you find those, you're going to want to close the path immediately. So let's look at our next example, A or not A or B. Oh, shoot, it's not A or N. Yeah, of course not. It's A and not A or B. So the first rule will split these guys into A and not A, and then B on this side. And then this rule will go A, not A. And the moment I see that there's a contradiction, and you want to check every single time you apply a rule, you want to check, have I made a contradiction? Have I made a contradiction? In fact, that's one of our hard and fast rules, is you have to check that every single time. Have I made a contradiction? If so, you put an X and say, I'm done there. I'm not going to apply any more rules there. And exactly why you want to do that right away won't become clear until we get to predicate logic. But let's do the exercises. Number 1, it's not the case that A, if A, then if B, then A. Okay, so we have the negation of a conditional. Then we're going to have A and not if B, then A. And then the negation of a conditional again. So that will be B and then not A. And then we have this A here, and we have this not A here. Oh, contradiction. Number 2, if A, then B, or not A or B. Or splits these two guys apart. The conditional, it splits like this. And the disjunction will split like this. Not A, B, and we are good, no contradictions. Number 3, it's not the case that if A, then B, or not A or B. So we have the negation of a disjunction here. The way we do that is we negate both disjuncts. So not if A, then B, and also not A or B. Check. Then we have the negation of a conditional, and that looks like this. A, not B. And then the negation of a disjunction, and that will be not A, not B. And then that not A, we can make it into an A with the double negation rule. And we have an A and an A here. We have a not B and a not B here. There's no contradictions. We're all good. Number 4, not A or B. There will be no contradiction here, because there's only one A and one B. So you're going to be fine on this one. So first we have this double negation rule. So we'll make it not A or B. Then we have the negation of a disjunction. So not A, not B. And that's it. Number 5, not A and not A. A and not A is a contradiction. So saying not A and not A is definitely not going to be a contradiction. The negation of a conjunction, that rule says you negate them both, but you split them apart. And then this not A turns into just an A. And no contradictions there. Number 6, not A and B. We haven't had too many contradictions, so I'm guessing this one will be a contradiction. I don't know, though. Not A or not B. Okay, let's see. Starting off, we have the negation of this biconditional, okay? So this might be helpful for me to black box stuff for you guys. I don't know. I've not been doing it because I didn't want to be annoying about it. But at this point, let's go ahead and do it. So for a negation of a double biconditional, one of them is going to be negative and the other one's going to be positive on both sides. So let's say not, then not A and B, or not A or not B. Okay, we got that rule done. Next, let's do the not A and B. That's going to look like this. Oh, I should say one of the rules of thumb that you want to do, if you know something is going to split apart and you know another rule is not going to split apart, then you want to do the one that doesn't split apart first. That way you don't have to apply, because for this one, check out what happens. We do not A on one side and not B on the other side. And now we have to apply this rule right here, the not of the disjunction. So we're going to have to write not A, not B, and then not A. You have to do it on both sides, right? So that's a little bit more writing than if we would have done instead like this. If I had done this one first instead, then I would write not A, not B, check. And then I would do this one. We'll split like this, not A. And see, I don't have to write as much. So you definitely want to do that. Actually, I should have done the double negation rules first. Look at that. I should do the not A first is A, check. Not B is B, check. And now, not A on one side, not B on another side. And here you have a contradiction like that. And here you have a contradiction here. So two closed lanes. Let's see what happens on the other side. First, we have this double negation of a conjunction. So let's write A and B. And there I go, checking it off before I write it down. Bad teacher. A and B. We write it like this. A, B. Oh my gosh, dude. If you have stuck with me this far, you are a saint, because my handwriting is absolutely atrocious. I know it's so bad. I'm doing my best, man. Like, honestly, it's pretty sad, but that's my best. And then the not A or not B splits off into a not A and a not B. And here we have a contradiction. And here we have a contradiction. So all of them are closed off. This is totally contradictory. That last one actually taught us two of the things that I was about to talk about. So we'll talk about them anyway. So applying the rules on all open and no closed paths. So let's say we have if A then B and if B then A. Okay. And the first thing we're going to have to do is take care of that conjunction. That gives us if A then B. and if B then A, check. And now in this case, like I told you that rule of thumb, you know, if they're going to split, then do the one that doesn't split first. But both of these are going to split. That the rule for both of these is the same, which is to split them. So I'll just do the first one first. If A then B, so that will be either not A or B, check. Now I have to apply the rule for the if B then A on both sides. So I have to do it here, not B and A. Oh, and I see a contradiction right here. And then here as well, not B and A. Oh, contradiction here. Check. So you have to apply the rule to all the different branches that have been made from that branch. And only then if you've finished. Of course, if you've closed a branch already, then don't apply the rule. Don't keep applying the rule to that closed branch. So now you may be thinking, I kind of get how to do these truth trees, but what does it all mean? Well, looking at what we've got here, we have some open branches and we have some closed branches. What do the open branches mean? The open branches mean that the propositions that you wrote at the very top of the page, right, when you get down to the bottom of the branches and you have either the simple proposition or the negation of the simple proposition, those will be a truth value. Those will give you truth values that you can assign to the different simple propositions and have all those propositions that you have at the top that you originally wrote down be true at the same time, right? So in other words, it'll show you that they're all satisfiable. In our case here, we only actually wrote down one proposition at the very top. So all it shows us is, yes, this proposition can be true, and it can be true when A is false and B is false. That's when it can be true. And it can also be true when B is true and A is true. That's when it can be true as well. The closed branches are just assignments of truth values that you can't have, right? So we can't assign not A and A, right? We can't have A be both true and false. We can't do that. So this is a truth value assignment that we can't have. So we can learn from the open branches whether or not a set of propositions is satisfiable. But that's not the only thing we can learn. We'll find out in upcoming videos that we can use these truth trees to figure out if an argument is valid, if we have a contradiction, contraries, tautology. We can figure out all those things just using truth trees. But I'll see you in those videos. Adios.